Hi, welcome to the presentation of our Project 1. I am Lorraine Wu, and we are Team 3. Today, we want to introduce you our data analysis project findings on the financial and educational aspects of universities in the United States. Let's first get an idea of the insights we have discovered. First of all, we have found that states with less number of universities have larger difference in in-state, out-state tuition fee. For instance, there's Wyoming and Alaska and Vermont. That should indicate that despite lack of resources, local governments are making an effort to support education financially.
Our second insight is about the admission rate and SAT scores. We've discovered that the SAT score serves more like a minimal requirement instead of a determining factor for admission, and there is no significant relationship between admission rate and average SAT scores. We then want to trace back to the motivation behind our project. We have all experienced the complexity and exhaustion of the US university application process, and we would thus like to use data analysis and visualization method to explore the general landscape of US universities, hoping to find insights which could help future applicants make more informed decisions more easily. And we would categorize our questions into three major domains. The first one is about number of universities. The second one is about tuition fees. And the last one is about SAT scores and admission rates.
In order to solve the problem above, we located a Kaggle database featuring over 50,000 entries, offering detailed admission criteria and university profiles for significant statistical analysis. This database presents university geographically, including locations in the campus setting, and profiles institutional infrastructure by degree types and student body size. It reveals admissions criteria through director rates and SAT score and depicts student diversity across racial demographics. Financial aspects are also detailed, covering tuition fees and a student's family incomes, providing a well-rounded economic view of higher education.
Here, let's go through our assumptions. We use mostly the data in the year of 2020, so we assume that this year of data is representative of the current state of the problems that we want to investigate. Also, we assume that our dataset is adequate, and even after cleansing, we still have a dataset that can represent the current state of universities. There is no bias in the quality of data from each state.
In analysis our database, we began with meticulous data cleansing, discarding entries with null values to ensure the integrity of our analysis, particularly for studies reliant on specific data points. We narrowed our focus to critical columns reflecting university attributes, admissions criteria, and financial information as outlined earlier. For our EDA, we employed diverse methods to different analytical needs. In scenario where visual tools fell short, we turned to statistical approach to discern underlying patterns. This included using the Pearson correlation coefficient to probe potential relationship between various variables, allowing us to substantiate our findings with numerical evidence. Below are some key findings and the approach employed to arrive at these insights. We use 3 bar charts to directly compare the number of universities in different years based on the degree types. It is clear evident that there is a slight decreasing trend in the number. However, we did not put these 3 figures into one chart because of large differences in scale. The number scales of associate and certificate university are much smaller than that of bachelor degree. That is, bachelor degree university take up most occupations in the USA. And then we use the map distribution to straightforwardly show the university numbers distribution based on the states. And we use the color shade to indicate the different numbers. It is very simple and clear. And we find that the Pennsylvania, where we located, has the most universities in the USA.
And now I will talk about our investigation about tuition in details. The first graph we have here is a scatter plot on out-state tuition and in-state tuition. We used Pearson coefficient to check whether there is a significant correlation between the in-state tuition and out-state tuition. The result is that for United States universities, the correlation is significant. If a university's out-state tuition is high, then it is probably more expensive for local students to go to that university. Then we want to ask how much difference is there. And firstly, we checked by using a bar chart to plot all the average difference in each state. We can see that the median difference is around 5,500 and the mean difference is around 6,000. This means that the distribution of the difference is right skewed, and we can see that it is because there are states that have huge differences. And lastly, we can see the distribution by a mapped graph. For states that have smallest number of universities, there tend to be a larger difference in their in-state, out-state tuition fee. For instance, Wyoming and Alaska. This should indicate that despite their lack of education resources, they made an effort to financially support their local students to attend universities. On the other hand, states with larger number of universities are inclined to have smaller difference with in-state, out-state tuition fee difference, such as Pennsylvania and New York.
For the third domain, we switched to the SAT scores and admission rates. We first investigated the distribution of SAT scores with averages by degree types in 2020. We discovered that the average SAT scores for universities offering bachelor's degrees is the highest. Next, we used the scatter plot to investigate the relationship between SAT scores and admission rates by degree types. And we also use the Pearson coefficients to compare the correlation of these two variables, and we discovered that there is no significant relationship between these two variables as the points in the graph are not closely aligned with the straight lines. While our common sense might tell us that the higher SAT scores we get, the more likely we are going to be admitted to the dream scores. The previous graph didn't indicate this didn't strongly support this common assumption. As a result, we chose to delve deeper into what is actually happening for the Ivy League universities. We discovered that over the years, the admission rate tends to decrease, yet the average SAT scores remain stably at a very high rate, which is at least like 1,350 points. As a result, we could see that it almost seems like you must have at least 1,350 points to be potentially get admitted, yet the general admission rates for the Ivy League schools are still decreasing. As a result, these visualizations might tell us that the competition among applicants are becoming more robust, and the SAT scores serve more like a minimal requirement instead of a determining factor for admission. In conclusion, we separated our questions in 3 major domains. The first one is about number of universities. Our major findings are that most universities offer bachelor's degrees, and universities offering certificate degrees are very rare. We also discovered that Eastern United States has more universities, with Pennsylvania ranking the top, but in general, the number of universities are decreasing. And these findings would aid us in understanding the general university distribution in the United States, especially those applicants targeting at specific degree types or regions. The second domain of investigation is about tuition. There is a clear correlation between the tuition of in-state students and out-state students. For states that have smallest number of universities, there tends to be a larger difference in their in-state and out-state tuition fees. And these findings could aid us in understanding policies aimed at supporting local students' access to higher education. The last domain of investigation is about SAT score and admission rates. We discovered that average SAT scores for the bachelor's degrees are the highest, and there is no significant relationship between SAT scores and admission rates. The SAT scores serve more like a minimal requirement rather than a determining factor for admission, and we could thus conclude with a suggestion for applicants to know the range of average SAT scores for the universities they are targeting at. And once they received the SAT scores reaching the threshold, they could switch to focus on other factors which might benefit their applications more. And this concludes our presentation for the Project 1, and thank you for listening.